Laurie Snyder. Brian Finley.
She expressed her regrets that she would be unable to be with the student emergency that arose.
Yes, sir.
Brian Finley,
Finley.
present.
And Dr. Gordon Borland, presiding officer.
Present.
And we do have a quorum.
Thank you. With quorum being declared, we shall proceed with the agenda. First item that was on the agenda was some open government training. I believe Ms. Pefferly will address that. I think that my understanding is that at the last meeting of the board, we covered that with those who were present, and I believe you have covered the open meeting information with open government with Ms. Wood. Is that correct, Ms. Pefferly?
Yes, we did do the training, and it was the same material as the full board had recently, so we don't need to redo it for everyone. So yeah, that item we don't need to address.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for attending to that.
Sure.
Helped our efficiency here this morning. So we'll declare that item completed. Moving to item D on the agenda, approval of minutes from the meeting on August 15th, 2023. Would the members of the board have received a copy of those minutes, the draft? If anyone has any comments, suggestions, revisions, or whatever, or would like for them to be posted on where all can see them, we could do that, I'm sure. So any comments, suggested revisions, clarifications regarding those minutes? Give you a minute to look back through them if you wish.
And the minutes were in the packet, so if we will need a motion if there's no comments or
any comments or anything last call, unless someone has something. I'm seeing no indication there is. All right, in that case, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the August 15th meeting 2023 for the Behavior Analyst Advisory Board as presented. Did someone make a motion? Dr. Sokolowski, thank you.
I move we accept the proposed minutes.
Thank you. Second?
It's Dr. Mock, I second.
Thank you. Second, the minutes have been, there's been a motion with second that the minutes of the August 15, 2023 meeting of the board be approved as presented. Let's see, I guess, Ms. Luna, will you call the roll, please?
yes. Amy Wood?
Yeah, here.
Mariel Fernandez?
Approve.
Dr. Joyce Mock?
Approve.
Carol Sloan?
Approve.
Dr. Stephanie Sokolowski?
Approve.
Brian Finley?
Approve.
And Dr. Gordon Borland, presiding officer?
Approve.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. The minutes as presented have been approved. Thank you. We will enter them into the official record, I'm sure. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Persons wishing to make comment had opportunity to do so. By noon, excuse me, December 8th, we have received one request to make public comment for today's meeting. That person is Ms. Jody Rumpf, representing herself. She will have 3 minutes to give her comment, and the board will not be allowed to ask questions or discuss anything said. So, Ms. Rumpf, thank you, and for being here. And so when you begin, will you please state your name and who you represent? I think we've got that information, but if you'll do it, you have 3 minutes. And as I think you know, the board members are not able to ask any questions or discuss with you anything that's not specific on the agenda. So is that you good? You understand?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much for your time. I
run a small business here doing ABA services with BCBAs in the Cedar Park, North Austin area. As you know, there's never enough BCBAs to go around, and the current Texas statutes and licensure doesn't allow international behavioral analysts to practice under their IBA certification, which is equivalent to the BACB certification. It also does not allow for QASPs who are certified under the, why this came up. I have this beautiful supervisee. She is in Europe. She is already an IBA. She wants to get her board certification hours to get fully double board certified. But even though she's, been practicing before the board pulled back from Europe, she was, certified, but then of course the BACB board no longer practices or does certifications outside the country. But we have some BCBAs that are now expats or living in Spain or France. I even have one of them who's lives in an island off of Africa. And when it comes to providing services, they still would like the opportunity to provide services in the States via telehealth and other ways. But because the BACB board is only now credentialing in the USA, they've had to turn to other alternative boards to get their certifications. These board certifications are equivalent of the BACB. I just would like us to be a little bit more open in allowing these great BCBAs to serve some of the clients here in Texas under their other board certifications so that we can keep increasing the pool. And I know Texas is very blessed. We have UNT, we have other programs that are producing BCBA, so we actually have more than our fair share. But even with that, we do have a point that we still don't have enough. There's just, we still don't have enough BCBAs. And I want to be able to bring in as many BCBAs to help as many of our Texas clients as possible. And so if you guys would consider looking at these other boards' licensures, look at their requirements, making sure that they're equivalent to just changing the language slightly.
Time's up.
Time's up. That's it. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you very much for expressing your concern and interest. Noted. Thank you. Okay.
Is there anything else I have to do, or am I good?
You're good. Thank you very much.
Have a nice day. Bye.
You too. So moving to item F on the agenda, I believe. Discussion, possible recommendations on the proposed amendments to existing rules at 16 Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 121, Subchapter A, 121.1, 121.10, and so on is referenced in the agenda. I'm not going to read all that information. It's regarding the Behavior Analyst Program, and the board reviewed that at the August meeting, recommended that it be approved. As stated, there was opportunity for public comment regarding those proposed changes. It was basically a kind of a reorganization, I think, Ms. Pepperly, and kind of clarifying, cleaning up some of the things, not really any substantive change in regulations. There was opportunity for public comment. None was received. Is that correct? No public comment received?
Correct. There was no comment on the last proposal. No.
Okay. So, I don't, Ms. Pepperly, I don't know if you have anything more you would like to add to that before we open it up for the board to discuss.
Yes, you've covered it pretty well, but I just thought I'd sort of give a little recap. And before I do, Chris Funderburg is in the meeting, and he's available for one of the later items on the non-jurisdictional complaints.
Great.
But
Thank
he
you.
is going to, he's been handling behavior analysis issues in enforcement, and he's been with our department for quite some time in enforcement, and he is familiar with behavior analysis, and he is going to be assuming the role that I've been having of, being the attorney for this board. However, I'm going to still be a TDLR, so we're going to hand it over to him, but I'll still be available, and he is familiar with a lot of the issues. So I just wanted to introduce him, and we'll be talking with him later as needed during that discussion. On the rules, we had done our last rule review, which we have to do every 4 years for all the rules, and that was in 2022. And we received comments during the rule review, and subsequent to the review, the rulemaking was initiated to make changes based on the review and just sort of needing updating and based on some comments. So the rules were proposed in January of 2023, and then we received additional comments. So we withdrew them to address those comments because they triggered some need for some substantive change. And so instead of carrying the rules through and then having to start another rulemaking to fix those things, that's why they were withdrawn and reproposed, and that was in September. And so after the reproposal, we did not receive any further comments, and so the rules are before you today to adopt, and you have or to recommend adoption or not, and you've seen them twice now. The last changes were explained in the preamble for the proposal, and so the point we're at now is that we need to have a recommendation to adopt them, and they'll go to the commission, and if the commission adopts them, then they'll be published, and we'll be all done with these rules. As things develop, we're going to have future rulemakings, whether there's a legislative change or we need to update again. But at this point, we don't have anything in mind for further changes. So once these are adopted, then we'll just sort of respond to, doing a rulemaking as needed. And so unless anyone has any questions, then you can go ahead and make your recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the board?
This is Carol Sloan. So the rules, there's no changes from when we've looked at them before. Is that what you're saying?
There's no changes since the second proposal. At the second proposal, we had made a few changes from the first proposal, but just limited to responding to the comments that had come in, basically, and a few further updates, but for consistency. But there were no changes recommended, no comments for this adoption.
So this is Gordon Moreland. Just to be clear, then, my understanding is that what's before us today is exactly what we saw at the outcome of the August meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
No.
Yes, Dr. Sokolowski.
I was just going to propose that we accept these rules as proposed.
So Dr. Sokolowski is making a motion that we accept the rules as proposed?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Mariel Fernandez, I will second.
Ms. Fernandez seconds. Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. If there's no further discussion, Ms. Luna, would you call the roll, please, regarding this vote, the vote on approval of these proposed rule changes?
Yes, and I'm sorry, the motion was to recommend, was it to recommend to the commission approval?
Yes, is that what I'm supposed to do? Yes. I'm
Okay,
recommending to the commission that we accept the rules as proposed. Is that correct? Is that the
Ye-
right language? Okay.
And to adopt, yes.
And
Yes.
to adopt. Okay.
perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Ms. Fernandez, do you second that?
I do.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Amy Wood? Do you
I think
accept?
I think you're muted.
Sorry. Approve.
Thanks.
Maria Fernandez?
Approve.
Dr. Joyce Mock?
Approve.
Carol Sloan?
Approve.
Dr. Stephanie Sokolowski?
Approve.
Brian Finley?
Approve.
And Dr. Gordon Borland, presiding officer?
Approved.
And motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending to this. We've put quite a bit of work into this, and I know the staff has done a lot of work. Ms. Pepperly has done much. And just by the way, Ms. Pepperly, we appreciate what you've been doing, and I'm really happy to know you will be accessible should we be needed by Mr.
Yes.
Funder. So thank you for all you've done for this. So the motion having been approved, the proposed rules will then be forwarded to the Commission of Licensing and Regulation and with the recommendation to approve them. So thank you. Having moving now to item G on the agenda, discussion of impossible work group assignments. The board has 4 work groups: the enforcement, licensing, education and examination, and standard of care. I think you may have received information in the packet provided to the members of what the board are, or excuse me, the work groups for the board are. What Ms. Luna is showing right now is the current or what the membership has been and is. We've had some turnover on the board, and so we certainly want to make sure we have full complement of people on each work group. Some of you have participated in that. Some of you haven't participated that are newer to the work group. These work groups are very important. They do some very important work in looking deeply into some issues that come before the board, either generated by the board or external to the board or by staff, and then come and report and make recommendations to the board regarding possible action. The board then discusses and then decides regarding possible action and any recommendations. So that's just a little background on what these work groups do. They don't have a set meeting schedule. It's just I want to make sure everyone knows that. By being on a board member, you're not committing to 2 hours of your time every month for who knows how long. Some of the boards don't meet very often. They only meet as needed. And I think if I'm incorrect, someone on staff correct me. And some of them have met multiple times. Some, I don't know whether they ever have, whether the Education and Examination Board actually met, I believe. I know Standard of Care did, I believe Enforcement did, maybe licensure. So with that said, I hope you've had time to look at the board, at those. You're not required to, no, members are not required to be on a work group, but it's really helpful. This is a very important way to contribute to the board's functioning. Very important. We have at present only Dr. Sokolowski on the enforcement work group. Again, I want to be clear, anyone that's currently on a group isn't obligated to stay there, but you can if you want to. On the licensing work group, we have Dr. Sokolowski, Carol Sloan, and Dr. Mock. We have currently on the education examination work group, Laurie Schneider, Dr. Sokolowski, and on the standard of care work group, there's Dr. Mock, Ms. Snyder, and me. So that's the current lineup. All subject to change. So we want to do this in a fairly organized, non-chaotic manner. I'm not sure exactly how we do that. But I'm wondering if I'm not, is there a chat function or something like that that people can put into a chat what they would like to do, or do we just maybe, or we can just go through the membership orally? I don't know what's the most efficient. What's
Dr.
possible?
Berlin,
Yes,
may
ma'am.
if,
Please.
if you can just, for the enforcement work group, just whoever wants to be appointed to that, just give me your names. I'll write them down. And then
like
we'll go, and we can only pick 4 members, can only be
Right.
on the work groups. So if you will, whoever wants to be on the work group, just give me your name and I'm writing them down. And then I
Okay.
can, at the end when we finish, we can go over all of them, and I can read everybody's name just to make sure that I have everyone correct on here.
Okay.
Dr. Sokolowski, I see you're,
Yeah, I like enforcement. So are we going to go one group at a time, one
Yes.
work group at a time? Okay.
yes.
I volunteer for enforcement.
Others?
Brian Findlay, I'll volunteer for enforcement as well.
Thank you. And
Amy,
again, remember, you can switch around later if you want to. I'm sorry, I interrupted someone. Ms. Wood, I think.
yes, I volunteer for enforcement.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Gordon, this is Carol Sloan. I'll be glad to be on any work group that you need to round out.
Thank you for your flexibility. Anyone else? We have 4, but we do not have to, we can consider more people. Again, just a quick point of information. The reason for 4 is to minimize the risk of a walking quorum. In case you're wondering why. Anyone else? Okay, well, if someone else would like to be considered for that group, you can tell us later. We can add that. The licensing work group, who would like to be considered for that?
This is Muriel Fernandez. I would like to be considered for the licensing work group.
Ms. Fernandez, I thought I saw Dr. Sokolowski's hand up there somewhere. Whoops.
Yes, I like that work group. So Stephanie Sokolowski for licensing.
Thank you. Others?
We have Carol Sloan and Dr. Mock on here right now. I don't know if you ladies want to continue.
Feel free to go either way on that.
I'm happy to continue unless I'm needed someplace else.
Okay.
This Carol Sloan, I'm the same way, just wherever I'm needed, I'm happy to be on any work group.
Okay.
I'm also interested in that one, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to do it, but I'm interested. Just
Okay, I can only write 4 down, so. I've
okay.
already
Well, I
got-
think we can write down as Ms. Luna. I believe we can take as many people as wish to be considered, and then there will be a decision made about appointment. That's how we proceeded in the past. Others, by someone saying they're an indication of interest does not mean that they will necessarily be appointed. Correct?
Well, I'm writing the names down, so if you
Right.
want to be considered, because I will at the end of when we finish writing them down, then I will go over each one of them just to make sure this is where you want to be. So, but we cannot have more than 4 people.
I understand. This is Gordon Borland. I'm talking about process here. I understand that the final outcome is 4 people appointed. My understanding is that more people than 4 can indicate being interested, and then a decision is made. I believe in the past it was made by the presiding officer of
Yes,
the
sir.
actual decision about the appointment. So we can have more than 4 people indicating interest, but only four
Gotcha.
actually appointed. I believe that precedent for that previously. So
Yes, sir.
anyone
Right,
else?
you have 5 candidates basically and 4
Yeah.
appointments. So.
Right, exactly. Anyone else on licensing before we move forward? Moving on, people interested in the education and examination work group being appointed to that. Ms. Snyder's not here to defend herself.
Do you want to keep her on here?
I would, but we can, but if others are, certainly others are interested, that would be fine. We need others.
Yes.
This is Mariel Fernandez. I am interested in the education and examination work group.
Thank you.
Dr. Borland, this is Amy Wood, and I am also interested in that work group. Like Carol, I am happy to fill in, slot in wherever I'm needed.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. We have 3 people who have indicated interest in being appointed to the education and examination work group. Others? We'd like to have at least 4. You can think about it.
Yeah.
Let's
I mean,
move to-
I'll volunteer. If we need a volunteer, I'll put my name in the list and then Gordon, you'll sort it out. That's fine.
okay. We just don't want to overcommit you, Dr.
I know.
Sokolowski.
Yeah, because we'll meet once a year. I mean, seriously.
Well, there you go. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your flexibility and willingness. So thank you. Again, if anyone else decides they would like to be considered, well, please let us know later. Moving to the standard of care work group, who would like to be considered for appointment to that one?
Mariel Fernandez, I would like to be considered, please.
Okay. Mariel,
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez, thank you. Others?
This is Dr. Mock. I'd like to stay on it.
Okay, thank you. Others?
Dr. Borland, I think we will need you for the standard of care work group.
Okay. I'm willing to continue. Thank you. Others? This is a fun one. Sell it.
Brian Findlay, I would like to be considered for it as well.
Okay. Any others? Lori Schneider was on that group previously. I don't know, but she would want to be considered. I didn't even think about perhaps, of course, contacting her about that. One of the things that I think it's really good to have at least one public member on each of the work groups if we can. It's not required, but I think that input from public members is important. Anyone else, please, for standard of care?
Gordon, again, I'm happy to do that. If that ends up being the work group that needs a public member, very happy to do it.
Okay. That was Carol Sloan.
Carol,
Yeah.
yes, sorry.
No,
Dr.
I was
Borland.
looking down. I didn't see who was talking. I'm sorry. Yes, Ms. Luna.
Dr. Borland, I was just going to say, I'm Amy Wood. I would,
Amy, I'm sorry.
yeah, that's all right, no problem.
Okay.
I'd be
Thank
happy
you.
to be considered for that one as well. Although I will say that I probably don't want to be on all 3 that my name is.
Right.
That's fair. That's fair. And thank you for expressing your preference. That's what we need. At this point, Ms. Luna, would you go back and review the names that that have been people indicating their interest for each
Yes,
of the
sir.
committee, and then people can adjust that as they wish,
Okay.
and then be a decision about assignments. Thank you.
Okay. What I wrote down for the enforcement work group, I have Dr. Sokolowski, Brian Findlay, Amy Wood, and Carol Sloan as a backup. The licensing work group, I have Mariel Fernandez, Dr. Sokolowski, Dr. Mock, Carol Sloan, and Dr. Borland as a backup. For education and examination, I have Laurie Snyder, Mariel Fernandez, Amy Wood, and Dr. Sokolowski. For the standard of care work group, I have Mariel Fernandez, Dr. Mock, Dr. Borland, Brian Finley, and backup is Carol Sloan and Amy Wood.
And possibly Ms. Snyder.
Right.
She's currently a member, but I'll tell you what, I will be, since she's not here to defend us. And we look like we have other public members that would be willing to do that, I think. So, okay. So having heard the listings by work group of the people who have indicated interest in being appointed, anyone feel free to adjust or in some way add, delete from that. I'm not sure exactly what the process is this time around. Previously, when we were appointing members to the work groups, we did kind of like we just did, and then then subsequently a decision was made announcing who was the appointments. Okay, I'm not sure how we want to proceed here. Ms. Luna, it looked like you have a suggestion. Please.
Yes, sir. I think if you know these, actually the people that I announced, especially with the enforcement work group, there were the three, and the alternate. I won't write her down, but I'll have a record of her anyway, of the alternate people. But for the actual work group, you know, since everyone, this is what y'all chose, we can go by what was announced.
Okay, except for
You're
in the
okay?
cases for the licensing work group and the standard of care, there's more than 4 people that indicated interest. I think the
Right.
people indicated interest weren't necessarily as alternates, but as indicating interest.
Right. Well,
Right,
and
right.
exactly, but the 4, because we can't have on the actual, we cannot have more than 4. And
course.
Ms. Pepperly, you can step in at any time you want, but we cannot have more than 4 people because then we'll have a quorum.
Ms. Luna, I think I hope I must have been unclear here. I understand that no more than 4 people will be appointed, but they can be, as Ms. Pepperly pointed out, there can be more than 5 candidates, more than 4, but only 4 will be appointed.
Right.
So so a decision to be made regarding the licensing group and the standard of care work group. Yes, Dr. Sokolowski.
So on licensing, since we need Carol Sloan as the public member, and I did it last time and I enjoyed it, I will be glad to be the alternate. Okay, does that make sense?
If you wish.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your call. That's your call.
Yeah, I'll be glad to be the alternate because I like that group. I mean, that seems counterintuitive, but I'll let somebody else enjoy it.
This is Carol Sloan. So is a decision have to be made during this meeting as to who's on these work groups?
This is Gordon Borland. Yeah, Ms. Sloan, I think that was what I was pondering. I'm not sure whether we did. Previously, we were meeting in person when the decision was made. And so then we took a break and did some pondering and then came back when we returned from break and made that, not having meeting online kind of.
Yeah.
Ms. Pepperly, can you comment on that?
Yeah, we have more candidates and slots on some of these, and Ms. Sloan has volunteered to be on any that we need someone, but we don't really want to overburden her either.
Right. Right.
So if you like, we can just circle back to this after everyone's had a chance to think about it, and but it would be a good idea to appoint the members this meeting because there may be assignments to be made. So in order for them to meet, start meeting, it would be good to firm up who's going to be on them.
Well, This is Carol
Okay.
Sloan. I was also asking because Laurie is not here, and there's not a chance for her to say what work group she would prefer to be on. And I've expressed a willingness. I don't want, like anybody else, wouldn't want to be on. I'd like to just be on one, but if I'm
Okay.
happy to be on any that need filling out and that need a public member. And I think Amy was expressing that same sentiment.
Yeah.
So it falls to you, Gordon, to try to figure out how to separate the mess out.
Oh, great. Another Solomonic decision.
Oh, well.
Unfortunately, I'm not Solomon. Okay. I mean, I can make a decision now.
Okay.
If that would be helpful.
All right.
And I appreciate everyone being so gracious and flexible. It's really great to work with a group of people like that, where it's not like
I know.
pulling teeth or toenails or something to get people to volunteer to do extra work. I mean, this is awesome.
So, Gordon, could I make a comment about that? The
Please.
TDLR team is so incredibly wonderful to work with. I am glad to volunteer because I know it's going to be done well and done correctly. And so please, a shout out to your whole team, because I don't mind being on these work groups because of you, the group from TDLR.
Here, here.
It's Carol Sloan. I second that. Yes. Staff are great.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't had the opportunity yet, it will be a wonderful experience, unlike some that most of us have encountered in dealing with various bureaucracies. Not saying TDLR is a bureaucracy.
No.
A large agency. Okay. All right. Well, here we go. I'll make a call. Okay. On the enforcement group, we had 4 people indicated they were interested in that. My decision is to sign off 4 of them. That would be Dr. Sokolowski, Mr. Finley, Ms. Wood, and Ms. Sloan. Okay. Are you, those 4 persons, are you still okay with that? Speak now or later.
Brian Findlay, yes, I'm good with that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. The licensing group, work group, Ms. Fernandez, Dr. Mock, Ms. Sloan, me, and Dr. Sokolowski as an alternative, since I'm going to tap you for 2 others, for some others. Okay. Is that okay? If you have, feel free to express your concern before the end of the meeting or after. Education examination work group. I'm going to leave it for the moment anyway, Ms. Snyder, but we can verify with her. Okay. Ms. Fernandez, Ms. Wood, and Dr. Sokolowski. Is that okay with y'all?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Standard of care work group. This is a tough one for me, but Ms. Fernandez, Dr. Mock, I think me. Here's my real difficulty is everyone I think would be awesome. Ms. Snyder is on that group, but not here to actually speak for herself. Ms. Sloan has already been appointed to 2. Ms. Wood has also been appointed to 2. So I want to be very respectful of our public members' time there. We could go with, Brian, I have absolutely no problem, no reservations. I was just wanting to get a public member on that group because that's I think very important. I'm kind of perplexed at the moment because I would really, if Ms. Sloan or Ms. Wood were appointed, that would put you on 3, and I'm not sure that's fair to you.
Do you want me to step off of that one? I'm already on another one so that Brian could go on.
I'm not asking that, but that's your call. Whatever you think.
I'm happy to do that.
Pardon me?
I'm
sorry,
happy to do that.
Well, I want to say your input on that previously was very important on that work group. I know that. So I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other. Just yeah. Okay, so that would be Mr. Finley at this point in lieu of Dr. Mock. Okay. And then we would need and then one of the thing is which one of the possible public members, because Miss Snyder is already on that group. Miss Sloan and Ms. Wood both are already on two.
Dr.
I could roll
Borland,
a three-sided die.
yeah,
Had one.
Dr. Borland, this is Amy Wood. That particular group is of very high interest to me. So if you need a public member, I'm open to doing that. I don't know if there's any other swapping around we could do on one of the other two that I have.
So so you indicated the standard of care work group is a high interest to you. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. Are you
Gordon,
sure
this is
you're willing
Carol.
to be-
It looks
Yes,
like you
Carol.
have two public members on the education work group, Lori and Amy. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I wonder if anybody else would want to be on that one instead and switch Amy off of it.
Okay, good observation. Thank you. Would someone like to be on the education examination work group? And that way, we would still have a public member, and Amy would end up only being on two.
Let's see.
We could go with three people. I suppose we could go a three-person work group.
Okay. That's fine.
Shall we do that?
Sure.
We can.
Amy, are you okay with that?
Yes, I am. I think that would
Okay.
that'd be great.
Okay. So now let me see if I can read what I've scrawled. Or better than that, Ms. Luna, would you read what you've written?
Sure. Do you want me to start over with enforcement or just?
Let's do
education?
that just so we can double check our notes.
Okay. So if I heard correctly, for the enforcement work group, Dr. Sokolowski, Brian Finley, Amy Wood, and Carol Sloan. For the
100%
licensing,
agreement.
That's two public.
for the licensing work group, Mariel Fernandez, Dr. Mock, Carol Sloan, Gordon Borland, and Dr. Sokolowski as the alternate. For the education and examination, I have Laurie Snyder, Mariel Fernandez, and Dr. Stephanie Sokolowski. For the standard of care work group, I have Mariel Fernandez, Dr. Gordon Borland, Brian Finley, and Amy Wood.
That squares with what I have. Is that okay with everyone?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks everyone for being patient with this discussion and for being so flexible and willing to take care of participate in these activities. They're very important for the work of the board for sure. Okay, I think that all being said now, now that we have the reconstituted or appointed new appointments to the work group, what I would like to do is to make an assignment to one of the work groups, specifically to the standard of care work group. I would like to, to that group, I'm assigning the topic of looking at the usage of artificial intelligence in behavior analysis work, in the practice of behavior analysis in Texas. And the group can then meet and discuss further what that might mean. But it was not an agenda item, it's just an assignment. Any question or comment regarding that? Thank you. Are we good to go on that one? On item G of the agenda? Have we completed what we need to do there? Thank you to everyone for your patience and cooperation on that. Moving to item H.
Okay,
Discuss.
Dr. Borland,
Pardon me. Yes, ma'am.
before you move to agenda item H, what I'm
Yes.
going to do is I'll prepare this document of the work group members and I will email it to all of y'all so you can have it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Just another example of awesome work of the staff. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item H. Need to talk about this was something that came up, I think, in the previous meeting. And Mr. Funderburg, I believe, was talking with us in the staff report. And we couldn't really go into it at that time because it was not on the agenda. Non-jurisdictional complaints. So I believe I'm calling up, is it Ms. Hoffman, I believe, to talk with us some about this and give us some input about the issue.
Hi, Mary Hoffman,
Mm.
TDLR. What we can do, Dr. Borland, is assign this topic to one of the work groups. We feel that the enforcement work group would probably be best, but that's your call. And then we can go into details and further discussion within the work group and then report back to the full board.
Okay. Just because we have some people who are fairly new to the board, could you just give us a brief, what does non-jurisdictional complaints mean?
I'll go ahead and let Mr. Funderburg cover that. He is in the enforcement division and has been monitoring this with the cases that the complaints that they have received. So Chris, do you mind taking that?
Whoops, I think you may be muted.
We
Mr.
still
Funderburg, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I'm having to communicate by phone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Non-jurisdictional complaints refer to those complaints that fall outside of TDLR's jurisdictional regulatory jurisdiction. In this case, it would be matters that we're unable to regulate by statute or law. And in this case, the matters that we're referring to are LLC, corporate entities that function as autism centers, and the violation or the allegations of violations that we see arising in those areas.
Thank you. Thank you for that overview. Any further conversation about that? If not, what I would like to do is to assign that topic to the enforcement work group, please. And so then staff will be meeting with the members of the appointed just today to that work group, and there will be much to discuss, I'm sure. Thank you. Anything else on item H? If not, moving ahead to recommendations for agenda items for the next board meeting. Please feel free to make them now. We can also submit them later on, but now is a really good time to do that. I would like for there to be report. Oh, excuse me, Dr. Sokolowski, please.
A report on the non-jurisdictional complaint work group, or results of the work group.
Good. A report from that work group and board discussion. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Other agenda item recommendations.
We might have, if the standard of care work group meet for the AI assignment, then they might come with a report on that as well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That would make sense, that we have a report and relevant discussion, or even if the report is we're not ready to make a report.
Yeah.
Yes.
To submit a report, which is fair for both groups.
Sure.
Okay. So we have a couple of suggested items. Others? Again, I remind the board that we cannot discuss things that were not on the agenda at the upcoming meeting. So I have, this may be a question for staff. During public comment, we received a request for consideration by the board regarding persons certified by entities other than the BACB. The board has looked at those issues at least twice. I believe previously, was it within the last year?
Yeah.
The board could, a work group could look at that issue again. I will just say I'm not aware of changes in the criteria for certification by either group. I have been following that. Ms. Bryce, I was thinking maybe you looked like you might have a comment or something to say to us, please.
Right. I was just going to say, this is Katie Bryce, in compliance, that we are unaware of any changes in the requirements for those credentials. And without any, changes in that, I believe the result would be the same. You might want to consider international credentials. That's something you could assign to a work group. But as far as the ones that we've already reviewed, I'm unaware of any changes in those.
Okay, thank you. The two certifying groups or organizations, I'm going to use be very careful with the terminology. The certifying organizations or the QABA and the IBAO. I believe we have looked at credentials by both of those organizations. I'm not aware of any new international credentialing organizations.
Dr.
I'm not
Borland,
sure that there's yes, please, Ms. Pepperly, please.
We don't have this item posted for discussion and deliberation, so you could assign it to a work group, or you can put it on the agenda for next time. But we really need to not have substantive discussion at this point.
Agreed. I was just, thank you for that reminder. I was just trying to figure, okay, how do we deal with this? Because I do want to show good faith and to attending to issues brought by the public. Dr. Sokolowski.
What if we explore what would be the work, determine the work group and explore the international organizations, because there may be some that we're unaware of.
Okay, that's fair.
And explore that and give a report at the next meeting, since we're not aware of change. But
okay, okay. So
things change all the time in this field.
Sure. Procedurally, I probably need guidance here, because I am predisposed to recommend this issue to a work group. We've moved from that item of the agenda. I guess I would like to reopen item G, if that be allowed, and assign to the licensing work group exploring international certifications of behavior analyst that the board has not previously considered, and look at, and if any be found, then to address whether they are essentially comparable to those now accepted by from the currently accepted certifying entity. Is that stated okay?
And that is for the licensing work group, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so for an agenda item, now jumping back to I, would like for the an agenda item to include the licensing work group providing a report of their work regarding international organization or international certification of behavior analyst, and then with board discussion of that as indicated. Dr. Sokolowski.
Could I add, because I think one thing we've run into is people are have become certified. They live in other countries, and now the BACB and that certification is all changed. So it could be they do have a
Right.
BACB certification and live in Spain or where Portugal or
Right.
Brazil. So
Spain. Right.
that's not exactly the same thing as approved by a separate entity. So that needs to be explored also.
Okay, sure. As part of that work group task.
Right.
Right. Okay, so we want to make sure that we do fair attention to the issue raised.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Ms. Luna, so far for agenda recommendations for the next meeting, would you review for us what we have so at this point, please, ma'am?
Yes, I have a, excuse me, a report on non-jurisdictional complaints from the work group, report on the artificial intelligence work group assignments, and that one is for the standard of care. And then for the licensing work group, a report regarding the international certification of behavior analysts. Am I missing something else? I'm sorry, I was writing as fast as I could.
Sorry, it was kind of a free-flowing conversation. Yes, Dr. Sokolowski.
The point that I brought up is there may be, and I believe are, individuals who are certified by the BACB board and live in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
And the BACB board now kind of only functions out of the US.
Right. Understand.
So
I think we want
that kind of dilemma, what happened, I think that would be an important conversation to have before it comes up as an actual issue for an actual person's life.
Right. So yeah, I think that that would fall under then the discussion we're talking about being covered by the licensing work group.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Would that be license? Yeah, okay. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I think I'm tracking, Ms. Luna. Thank you. Other recommendations for agenda items for the next meeting? Hearing none, guess we will close that item on the agenda. Again, there will be opportunity for input before the next meeting. Be watching for the call. Item J, discussion of the date, time, and location of the next meeting. I'm pretty sure we'll probably still be meeting online, but I believe Ms. Luna, you will be polling the board at a later time regarding that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else on item J? If not, item K, adjournment. Let's see, do we need a motion to
No,
adjourn?
sir.
Or can we just declare the adjournment? Okay.
Yes, sir. Just say the time.
Announce and I'll get it right. Try to get it right this time. The December 11, 2023 meeting of the TDLR Behavior Analyst Advisory Board is adjourned. It is now 11 o'clock Central Time. Thanks to everyone for your participation and patience. Thank you.